Kansas City is a peculiar place because most of it's not in Kansas. But we're going to be taking a look at the stadiums and arenas in the entirety of Kansas City, Missouri, and Kansas. We'll start off in the Kansas part of Kansas City, at Children's Mercy Park, which is part of a sports complex that is over 11 miles away from the state line, so it's far from being centrally located. I'm sure that people are willing to make the journey though, as it's one of the best soccer stadiums in the country. The design was apparently inspired by stop-motion photography. I don't exactly know how, but I don't care, the result is spectacular. I love that helter-skelter style roof that winds its way downwards, or upwards. That too has a supposed inspiration, the arc of a football that flies across the field. Fair enough. Even one of the video boards follows the slope of the roof. I love this stadium. Nearby is Legends Field, which was briefly the home of Sporting Kansas City, then known as the Wizards. Still to this day they boast the record attendance figures. But of course it was built for baseball, and has been home to the Kansas City Monarchs since it opened, although they also had a different name back then, the T-Bones. If you watched the recent American Association of Professional Baseball video, then I'm sorry for repeating myself, but they changed their name to the Monarchs in 2021 as a homage to the longest running Negro League franchise that went by the same name. Legends Field is like many minor league ballparks in that it has its own little version of the Green Monster at Fenway Park in Boston. They call it the Great Wall of Kansas. They don't, but they should. Also part of the same complex is Kansas Speedway. Notice that it's called Kansas Speedway, not Kansas City Speedway. They don't want Missouri to get the credit for it. Shortly after opening, the capacity was expanded to over 80,000, with the expectation that it was to expand further to 150,000. However, it has instead contracted to 48,000. Either way, it's still the largest capacity at any sports venue on the Kansas side of Kansas City. I'll give a quick mention to Memorial Hall, which is below the capacity cutoff, but it's a beautiful grand old building with a lot of history. We're not in Kansas anymore. T-Mobile Center, or T-Mobile Center, I should speak American. This place has a one-of-a-kind glass facade. To use the technical jargon, it's a doubly curved and faceted glass cladding system. There is less that you can do with the interior of an arena to make it stand out, but at least the seating is a bit more interesting than just a symmetrical bowl. You might be thinking, this seems to be an NBA or NHL quality venue. Why doesn't Kansas City have a team in either league? Well, the city has been trying to get one, but to no avail. So for now, it's bull riding and the Big 12 basketball tournament that are the main sporting highlights here. But of course it stays busy with non-sporting events. CPKC Stadium. The CP in CPKC stands for Canadian Pacific, a railway operator. I can't for the life of me think what the KC stands for though. Anyways, the new purpose-built home of Kansas City Current, KC Current for short. Apparently it was the world's first stadium that was purpose-built for professional women's sports. To be clear, there are definitely arenas out there that were purpose-built for netball or women's basketball. But yeah, I can't think of any other professional stadiums that were, off the top of my head. Every other NWSL stadium is home to a men's team of some sort. That's not the case here. It's also situated in a nice spot by the Missouri River, which you can see from some seats. Lovely little stadium. Arrowhead Stadium might be one of the older NFL stadiums, but it seems to also be one of the most highly praised. By spectators, sure, but even more so by the players themselves. That might have something to do with the fact that it's loud. It currently holds the record for the loudest crowd noise, not just in the NFL, but in the world. And that's despite the fact that it's completely uncovered. It was 142.2 decibels, if that means anything to you. There has been some upgrades in recent years, including an improvement to what was a very tired looking concrete exterior, but the design remains fairly true to the original plans. Speaking of which, not many stadiums have a design that's reflective of its name, but certain sections of Arrowhead Stadium, i.e. the corners, are reminiscent of an arrowhead. Next door is Kauffman Stadium. During the era that these two stadiums were built, the trend was to build multi-purpose stadiums that could host baseball and football, but they were imperfect for both sports. Kansas City decided against that, and that's probably why neither stadium has been demolished. The seats here once matched Arrowhead Stadium, but they are now in Kansas City Royals colors, which makes sense. Beyond the outfield wall is one of the largest video boards in Major League Baseball, or any sport for that matter. It's topped with a large crown because Royals wear crowns, and so their video board should as well. What is more unusual is that beyond that, the backdrop is one that largely consists of greenery, which is a rarity amongst MLB stadiums. It's usually a city skyline or a warehouse or the water, or some other urban setting. Hi-Vee Arena. This is actually a very interesting venue. Firstly, it has a distinctive exterior consisting of these huge steel trusses, but it also has an unusual history. It started out its life as the city's premier indoor sports venue, and remained so until T-Mobile Center came along. It used to be a huge arena that had an NBA level capacity of just under 20,000. However, about 6 years ago it was converted into a youth sports facility rather than a venue that focused on professional sports. It now has 12 basketball courts. Yes, 12. As well as a 350-meter running track, which is nearly Olympic sized. It's pretty cool in here. I should mention that in 1979 the roof collapsed during a storm. Next door is H-Hal Arena. This little arching roof above the entrance is about the only interesting aspect to the exterior. Inside it's not all that much more interesting. H-Hal Arena hosts the American Royal, which is, I believe, some kind of a dog show. This guy here clearly won largest dog in show. I'm not so good with identifying dog breeds, but I think that might be a Great Dane Mastiff cross. Geez, there are lots of big dogs in this show. Wow. Before Hi-Vee and then T-Mobile Center, it was Municipal Auditorium that was the city's premier arena. It was built in the mid-1930s, the era of Art Deco, and thus has a beautiful Art Deco design. It also looks like it could survive heavy shelling. That's definitely something T-Mobile Center can't boast. The Municipal Auditorium briefly housed an NBA team, who moved to Hi-Vee, but then briefly moved back when the roof collapsed. And it hosted an ABL team before that, but it's the Kansas City Roos, a college team that rule the Roos today. There's also an indoor football team, but you know. And those were the stadiums of Kansas City, a city that is only slightly Kansas. Thanks for watching, have a good one.